Well, good morning and welcome to Coffee with the Pastor. This is Monday. Got a tropical storm coming in, so we're all excited. This week I'm going to start the Sermon on the Mount, and I'm excited about this. We'll be on this for weeks, if not months. But my favorite Dallas Willard quote, somebody I quote a lot, but my favorite quote of his is that the mission of the church is to teach people to do what Jesus taught us to do. I mean, that's just our mission. Jesus taught us to do some things. We need to do them. And so it's very important for us to do the things that Jesus taught. Now, I read another quote this week, and a man said that the church has emphasized more getting people to accept Jesus rather than to follow Jesus. And I have to agree with him some, though I disagree with some of his sentiment that he had in his article. He really downplayed and kind of put down people accepting Jesus. Well, I think, it needs to be both. We need people to accept Jesus because that's when they began following Jesus. So you got to have a beginning spot, and your acceptance of Jesus is when you begin. So I think it's very important to accept Jesus, but I think it's more important that we follow Jesus. If you accept Jesus and you don't follow him, then it's not going to do you much good. So one of the things that we want to do is teach people to follow Jesus. And I don't know any better place to go than the Sermon on the Mount. When we go to the Holy Land, and I take groups over, and we're going to go again, hopefully in March, if this COVID doesn't cause us not to be able to go, but we're praying that COVID will be down so we can go in March, and that they'll allow us to go. But we go over there, and one of the places that we visit that I always look forward to is the place where Jesus gave the Sermon on the Mountain, the Mount of Beatitudes. And they have a church there called the Church of the Beatitudes that you can visit, and it's around the spot where Jesus did it. Last time we were there, our guide Ellie, who sometimes comes on these during the morning, he comes and listens to our devotionals, but he found a perfect spot for us, and there was a group of rocks, and all my group got to sit around, and you had the Sea of Galilee out there. You kind of had the hillside, and we just kind of sat there and kind of took some quiet time and just thought back of what had happened on that hillside when Jesus was on there, and I want to remind you what is happening here on this hillside. People were coming to Jesus, and he was doing healings. He was healing people. And the crowds had grown because they were bringing people who were sick, and they were coming out to see this great thing that's happening with Jesus healing folks. But Jesus wanted to do some teaching. And that's where we're going to pick it up with Matthew chapter 5, and I'm reading from the NIV version. It says, "Now Jesus saw the crowds, and he went up on the mountainside." It's more of a hillside if you've been there. "And sat down." Now Jesus went and he sat down. Now when the teachers of Jesus' day wanted to teach, they sat down, and the people would stand around them. I don't know why we have gotten this mixed up. I like that idea where the teacher would sit and the people would stand, but we do it the opposite, but that's not how they did it. His disciples came to him, and he began to teach them. Now, there was some debate about, there were thousands there, but was Jesus just giving these teachings to the disciples or to everybody as a whole? Well, I would say both. Obviously, he was training his disciples and wanting his disciples to learn and to be able to carry on the ministry after he left. But I think it was to everybody, and I also believe it's to us. And he begins with the Beatitudes. And I'm going to look at a couple Beatitudes today, but I want to talk about the Beatitudes, and we'll get into them a little bit more in the later part of the week. It begins, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." Now, what's the Beatitudes going to talk about? I have taught these wrong, I believe, for a good part of my ministry. First part of my ministry, 40 years ago, I was very influenced by a commentary, the Daily Bible Study guide by William Barclay. And William Barclay's approach to the Beatitudes were that we need to try and emulate the Beatitudes in our life. Like, when it says, if you're poor in the Spirit, we need to become poor in the Spirit. Now, it doesn't mean that, obviously the Bible has a lot to say about the poor materially. And, God loves the poor and God looks after the poor. But that's not what it's talking about. It's poor in spirit. In other words, we have no spiritual ways about us. And Jesus says those folks are blessed. They're blessed. And what's going to happen is, you're going to see in the Beatitudes, is Jesus is going to look at people who are not normally blessed. And he said, you're included too. In Jesus' day, the people who were blessed would be those that were rich. They were blessed. Poor, cursed. The religious elite, the Sadducees, the Pharisees, the priests, they were blessed. Those who didn't have much learning or anything like that, cursed. And Jesus is going to turn that on its head. And he's going to say, everybody's included. Everybody's blessed. And blessed are the poor in the spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. He's going to say, even those of you who don't know anything about the spiritual world. Maybe you've not been taught by a rabbi. Maybe you've not been to religious schools. Maybe you've not been taught the things you ought to be. You're still going to be blessed. I can bless you. I'm here and I'm blessing you. And I'm wondering if Jesus didn't have some show and tell. I'm wondering if there's not people there who are in the multitude, and he looks at some folks that he knows has no clue of anything going on about the religious teachings of the time and in the doctrines. They've never been taught that. I wonder if he looks at them and he says, no, you're blessed. And then there's some who are mourning. You don't think about people who are mourning. That's going to be the one we're going to talk about next. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. He may look at some people who were in grief, and maybe they were even wearing the grief clothes and things. And I think he may just look at them and say, you're blessed. Even though you're grieving, even though you're hurting, even though you've lost a loved one, you're blessed, and you're going to be comforted. And, I don't know, it's things we need to go look for. Truthfully, I don't want to be poor in the spirit. I want to be rich in the spirit. I want to study and have all the knowledge I can. It doesn't mean I can't be blessed. But it doesn't mean that somebody that hasn't had that opportunities that I've had can't be blessed either. I certainly don't want to go out and look for something to mourn for. I've lost a lot of family members in my lifetime. Lost both my brothers. I've lost my parents. I've lost good friends this year. Goodness, I've lost one to COVID and different things. And I don't want to go looking for mourning, but when I am mourned, I am comforted by the fact that I'm blessed. Even in mourning, I'm blessed. And we're going to talk about the rest of the Beatitudes the rest of the week, and maybe get into some other things. But it's a wonderful passage. If you have time, I would encourage you to read Matthew chapters 5 through 7, kind of in their entirety. It is the Sermon on the Mount, the greatest sermon ever preached. It is Jesus' teachings in a nutshell. So if you want to know what Jesus taught, look at the Sermon on the Mount and you will know. Well, I hope you have a blessed day, no matter what your circumstances. And I'm looking forward to continuing this tomorrow of looking on the Sermon on the Mount. Have a great day.